Hello, Trinity. Well, I keep wanting to say good to see you, but I can't see you. So good to be seen by you. I've talked to a few of you today. It's been good to hear from you, or good to hear your voice. I am, as you can tell, wearing a mask. Julie at church made this for me, and I wanted to tell her thank you. It came, I know she's made several of them for people all over town, and it came in handy today when I had to get out and get some groceries for some of the people at the church who can't get out. Help me keep my germs to myself. And I was actually just a minute ago watching a video with the Surgeon General. I don't know if he was using a sock or what, but he was showing how you could make a face mask with fabric. And my secret guest co-host, do you want to show who you are? There you go, it was a surprise co-host. You can use a bandana, you can use any number of things. If you do have to get out, it's a good idea. I've seen people on Facebook say, well, it doesn't protect. No, it protects the other people. So if you have to get out, it's a good idea. And this thing, I wore it just to be silly and to say thank you to Julie. But I think I might need to get a few more of these, even not just for coronavirus, but for allergies, because I have a feeling it's going to be a rough year for that too. So this came in handy for all of my errands this morning, especially the bank. That made my trip to the bank a lot more exciting. No, don't send me comments. I know, I'm just kidding. You can't wear this to the bank. I have a dad who's a banker. I know better. But anyway, get you something like this, or even just wrap around some cloth. It'll help protect others when you have to go out, and you look stylish when you do it. Madeline, yeah, you can take it all the way off. She's like, why do I have to wear this? I said, we're just going to be silly tonight. So Madeline's going to be my co-host with me tonight. You have anything you want to say?
Hi, everybody.
Hi, everybody. Are you having a good time today? Did you do anything fun? What'd you learn in school? Anything important? Yeah. This is a great interview here. What was your favorite thing you learned in school today, or did in school?
To not be shellfish.
To not be shellfish?
Selfish.
Okay. Like you're learning lessons on how not to be a crawfish or a shrimp. Selfish, not being selfish. That's important. Did you learn that in reading today?
Yeah, that's part of my story.
Yeah. You enjoyed reading?
Yep.
The other kids are making their presence known. This is backwards of last night, because when I was getting stuff set up, everybody had their lawnmowers going. Car alarms have been going all day and all night. Kids were out here screaming. I'm a little unsettled that we turned the video on and suddenly it's quiet. Are we actually live? Okay, I hear we are actually live. So our devotional tonight, we're gonna talk a little bit more about what went on in the life of Jesus in the week leading up to his crucifixion. Now, yesterday I talked to you about how Jesus went and cleansed the temple for a second time in his ministry. And now Jesus was staying in Bethany each night, and then he would go each day into Jerusalem, where he would teach the people in the temple. You think it would have been neat to hear Jesus teach at the temple? Yeah, me too. I would have liked to have been there to hear some of the things. But we're fortunate we can read a lot of what he said recorded in the Gospels. So he went to try to teach the people, Madeline. And what do you think the people thought about it when he taught?
He liked it.
Yeah, the people liked it for the most part. What about the people who were in authority, the leaders of the temple?
They probably didn't like it.
They did not like it. The Pharisees and the Sadducees and the rulers of the temple, the Romans, they were all pretty hacked off with Jesus, weren't they?
Yep.
They didn't like him through his whole ministry, and then he came in there to cleanse the temple again, and they just had it. They decided they were ready to kill him. So the story we're going to look at today, there's actually a few things that happened shortly the next day or so after he cleansed the temple. And remember what I told you last night, that a lot of this we don't know for certain what happened each day. We can make some educated guesses, and that's kind of what I'm doing here today. But in the next day or so after Jesus cleansed the temple, we know that he went back to the temple and he was teaching the people, and the Pharisees and Sadducees came and they decided that they were going to challenge Jesus. They were going to try to shut Jesus up, maybe try to turn the people against him a little bit, so that they would have an easier shot at killing him. Remember, I said yesterday that they were to the point now they weren't trying to embarrass Jesus, they weren't trying to challenge Jesus, they wanted to kill Jesus. But I think they still tried to challenge him because they knew they'd have an easier time if they could turn the people against him. So they went, and Luke tells us about several of the things that they did. One day he was teaching in the temple, this is in chapter 20, and proclaiming the good news. The chief priests and scribes with the elders came and said to him, "Tell us, by what authority are you doing these things?" They said, "Tell us what authority you have to, when you cleansed the temple the other day, cleared everybody out of the temple the other day, all the things you're teaching, what gives you the right to come in and teach this way?" And so Jesus said, answer my question, and I'll answer your question. So he presented a question to them. He said, "I'll tell you what authority I do these things by if you can tell me what authority John baptized with." They said, "John's baptism, tell me, was it from heaven or was it of human origin?" Meaning, is that something God told John to do, or is that something John made up in his own mind? Now the Pharisees got in their little huddle and now you whisper back. Oh, good. All right, that's good. And they did that back and forth. They whispered and they told secrets. And they talked about it, and they came back and they said, what do you think they said? Do you think they said it was something he made up or something God gave him?
God did.
Oh, it's a trick question. They didn't answer either one. They didn't say either way. It's okay. Don't feel bad. It's a trick. I tricked you. They knew they couldn't answer either one, because if they said that God had given John the right to baptize, then they're agreeing with John. They're agreeing to the whole ministry of John, and they're saying John was a prophet and John called Jesus the Messiah. So they know they can't do that. They also know they can't say it's just something John made up and it's a human thing, because then the people would turn against him. People would get mad, right? Show us your best mad face. The people would be mad, and the Pharisees would have even bigger problems. So they said, "Well, we don't know the answer to that." And Jesus said, "Well, then I'm not going to tell you by what authority I do these things." And I know that kind of sounds like a snarky answer, but Jesus was saying, if you're not even spiritually insightful enough to know the answer to that question, then I don't have to explain myself to you. Okay? And there are several things that he taught and they challenged him on, and we just don't have the time to go through all of them this morning, this afternoon. I don't even know what time of day it is. All of them this evening, but I wanted to share a few of them with you. So there was that one about John's baptism. Luke 20:20 says they watched closely and they sent spies who pretended to be righteous so they could catch him in what he said, to hand him over to the governor's rule and authority. So these spies sneaked in, Madeline, and they pretended they liked Jesus so they could ask him questions, and so they could take things and twist them to get him in trouble with the Romans. And so they asked him, should we pay taxes to Caesar or not? Should we give money? Should we spend our money paying the government or not? So Jesus, though, he was too smart for them, wasn't he? He was always too smart for all of them. And so he said, show me one of your coins. Show me a coin. And they did. And he said, whose image and inscription has on it? Like if I show you a quarter, Madeline, whose face is on it? Do you remember? I think you're still, I'm not sure you've learned that yet. It's George Washington's, okay? So is that a government leader, or is it God? Government leader, very good. He was president. Which president was he? The first. Very good. Good job. Learning you something in homeschool. All right. So he said, show me your coins. And now they didn't have George Washington on them, but he said, who's on there? Is it Caesar? Or whose inscription and picture are on there? And they said, Caesar. He said, well, then give to Caesar the things that are Caesar's and give to God the things that are God's. And of course, they didn't have a good answer for that either. And they were shocked, and the people were amazed. And then the Sadducees came back because they didn't believe in a resurrection. They didn't believe in coming back to life after we die. And so they came and said, so the law of Moses says that a woman, if her husband dies and they have no children, then she's supposed to marry his younger brother. They said, so imagine that a man died and had no children. So his wife married his younger brother, and then he died and had no children. And so she married the next younger brother, and so on and so forth. And she's married all these siblings. In the resurrection, who will she be married to? No. Good answer. Have we talked about this story before? She just knows. All right. You're smarter than the Sadducees. Congratulations. He said, so they said, who would she be married to? Trying to trick Jesus, because they don't believe in a resurrection anyway. And finally, Jesus said that in the resurrection we'll be like the angels who are not married and are not given in marriage. Did you know that the angels don't get married?
Yeah.
Only Mama. Mama's the only angel that ever got married.
Not an angel.
I'm counting on her watching this later. So no, the angels don't get married, and he says we'll be like that in the resurrection. And then he finished that up by saying that God is the God of the living, not the dead. And some of the scribes answered, "Teacher, you have spoken well," and they no longer dared to ask him anything. So they realized their little plans to try to trick Jesus and find something that they could use against him with the government or with the people, it wasn't working, was it? Jesus was way too smart for them. So they went and they continued to plot to try to kill him. They realized that's all they could do. And so we see in Luke chapter 22, which happened about this time on that week. Again, we don't know for sure, but it was about this time on that week. The festival of the unleavened bread, which is called Passover, was approaching. The chief priests and scribes were looking for a way to put him to death because they were afraid of the people. Then Satan entered Judas, called Iscariot, who was numbered among the 12. He went away and discussed with the chief priests and temple police how he could hand him over to them. They were glad and agreed to give him silver, so he accepted the offer and started looking for a good opportunity to betray him to them when the crowd was not present. And so that was really their whole plan, because they knew Jesus was at this point popular enough with the people that they couldn't just go in. They had nothing to use against him. They had no charge they could accuse him of. So they couldn't just go and in front of all the people arrest him. So when Judas said, I bet there's a way we could do this in secret, they were only too glad to enlist Judas. Baby, are you ready to go play? No? Okay. You're looking longingly over there. I was going to let you go play. We're almost done. So they were only too happy to make this deal with Judas. And Judas began setting things in motion. What was Judas going to do? He was going to betray Jesus. And what were they going to do once he betrayed Jesus?
Kill him?
They were going to arrest him and put him on trial and eventually kill him. And tomorrow night I'm going to talk about some of those things that when the trial really got started. But they tried one last time. I don't think it was just to embarrass Jesus. I think they wanted to arrest him and put him to death already. It said they were plotting to kill him, but I think they were trying to discredit him with the people or with the government to make it easier. And when they realized they couldn't do that, they said, we got to find another way. And Judas, unfortunately, was greedy for gain and fell right into it. Satan entered Judas. Satan got a hold of Judas and convinced him to do something he probably never thought he'd do. So tomorrow night we'll talk about the next step in the story, when Judas goes and carries out his plot. I've almost gotten so used to all the noise outside that I feel like I don't know how to do this without noise. Well, there it is. All right, Madeline, you have anything else you want to say? Do you want to pray for us tonight? You don't want to pray for the people? You want to pray for the people? All right, Madeline's going to lead us in prayer, and then we'll sign off.
Dear Jesus, help everybody not hit this coronavirus. Help people who need saved. Help them believe in you. Amen.
Amen. So, we'll see you back here tomorrow at 5 o'clock. I think Charla's agreed to guest host with me. Always somebody better for you to look at than me. Try to have somebody on here. So, we'll be back at 5 o'clock tomorrow. I love you. I'm praying for you. Stay safe.
Please, Mommy, please.